We have as the first item on the agenda the West Side cash balance update, which I assume is this lovely document.
Oh, there's a few lovely documents there. I think this is the one that's titled West Side Cash Flow is I think what I'm going to primarily look at. And then the others are kind of more supporting documents. And I am not a Excel expert, so my graph did not look entirely accurate, but I think it'll work. I just wanted to, because we knew that this year was going to be the low year for the West Side TIF, and we've looked at, and we had to make some minor adjustments on how we paid things in the spring. And so I just kind of wanted to give an update and a picture of where we're at now and where we expect to be at the end of this year. So we started this year with about $347,326.39. And then we got a spring settlement of $1,088,702.36. So we had about $3.42 million in cash, but we've had expenses, and one of the documents was all the expenses. It looks like this was all the expenses that we have spent out of that fund this year, and that is up to and including the claims that are on the agenda today. So just kind of, that snapshot of where we're at now is $267,408.49. Still yet this year, we have the STEM payment to RBB, which will be approximately $163,000. I got that number by taking the spring settlement times 15%. And then we also have our two bond payments of $49,231 and $53,606. I will say those are expected to be paid after the fall settlement. So the fall settlement is estimated from our annual report is $1,308,398, and that kind of coincides with, I think, how it's usually a little bit higher than or 100 or 200,000 higher than our spring settlement, because that's when they kind of give the county share of the jointly controlled properties out there. Part of that TIF district is in the city, and so they just do that settlement with the fall taxes. So that kind of jives with historically how the money has flowed into that account. So at the beginning of next year, after those expenses, it should be about $1.3 million. If you'd like, I could probably, I know that we'd have the remaining STEM payment and then the fire truck payment in 2026 that we have that are known expenses, and those would be probably close to $400,000 out of that. And so the goal is to kind of start building that back up for the Courier reconstruction project that is in our queue once we get the funding back. The other document, which is a more colorful version of this for those who have color copies, I just included that to show everywhere where it says pre-run, when we were talking about getting that excess funding that the bank was holding as part of our bonds, just to show that that has occurred.
But what expenses are we going to have that you haven't accounted for?
Well, from now to the end, I talked with Lisa. She was comfortable with that there weren't going to be any other expenses out of the West Side Fund this year.
So we have no inspection funds that are due, or?
So those come out of a grant fund. Yeah, I think that's got CE tied to it. So we would have already transferred the cash from that. We also have appropriations in the 4920 if we need it for the Vernal Pike project. We also still have the local road and street budget that has money appropriated for construction and engineering services if needed to back up that project. As of right now, we have no change orders on the project. It's scheduled to be done by August 30th for the 90% of it and intermediate completion date. So we do have funds to back it up if, some unforeseen thing happens. At this time, again, we don't have any change orders, and that's our only project being paid for out of the West Side TIF.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Be glad to get all of that done. Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, let's move on with the agenda to the minutes for the meeting of Wednesday, May 21st. Does anybody have corrections to these minutes?
Move approval.
Approval? Mike's going to second.
Approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 21st. Jeff, you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Okay. Claims. We have a substantial number of claims this month, most of which are associated with bond payments. We have a small claim from American Structure Point on the Fullerton Pike Phase 3 project. We have a claim from Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for the Karst connector. Then we have the second payment to the town of Ellettsville Fire Department for their truck. And then we have bond payments for the West Side 2015, West Side 2020, the 46 Corridor 2021, and the Curry Profile 2018. And there is one down at the bottom which says $800, which doesn't have a label. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, that is to Old National Bank, and I got the confirmation that is the trustee's fee for one of the West Side TIF bonds.
Okay. All right. Are there any, details are all here. I went through it, this all looked appropriate. Russ?
That was actually the auditor's office. And so I wanted to
Redacted.
clarify it.
Jeff, I have a question on the reimbursement to the town. I'm a member of the board of directors and shareholder at the People's State Bank. Is that going to be an issue?
But we're paying the town, so we're not paying the bank, so I think you're fine.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval of the claims. Move approval of the claims.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mike seconds. All right, we have a motion for approval and a second for the approval of claims for the 21st day of July for American Structure Point in the amount of $258,017. Butler, Fairman, Seifert for the Karst connector at $8,553.93. The town of Ellettsville for our commitment on the fire truck for $249,495.28. To Old National Wealth Management for bond payments for the West Side TIF of 2015 at $236,112.76. For the West Side 2020 bonds, $237,777.41. For the 46 connector 2021 bonds of $1,230. For the Curry Profile 2018 bond of $22,189. And for a trustee's fee associated with the West Side TIF of $800, for a total of $756,416.55. Jeff, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Okay, thank you. And I will get this started. Okay. Staff comments. There is an item that I received about an approval for credit request, which I didn't see on the agenda, which I assume is coming under staff comments.
Well, I think we could do it either way. It was a new item, and I was going to ask you guys under staff comments as whether you would want those credit requests combined with the approval of claims, or if you want them separately. And it's a little bit, this is something new, right? Because when we issued the 46 corridor TIF bond, the developer is ultimately backing that bond, and so therefore they essentially are, the whole concept is they bought the bond and they are backing the bond. And so in order to save interest costs and probably cash flow issues to the developer, we have it set up so that they don't actually get paid. They make a credit request against the bond. So instead of them having to cut the check to the bank and then having the bank cut it back to them, it's just a documentation that signifies, yes, they've made these expenses towards this project. These expenses are associated with that project and what we were anticipating. So in essence, it's like a claim, except we don't actually pay anything. So I don't like calling it a claim. So I was wondering how you guys wanted that handled. Do you want it as separate, or do you want them combined? Because
Since it's not cash out, I would rather have these as separate items.
I agree.
I've been all through this all before, so. I recall, didn't I sign something about this previously?
yeah, you signed it that we sent to the bank, and just like our claims, we're kind of ratifying them after the fact.
Right, kind of initiate, or
And I think
in
for these,
retrospect, that initiated the transaction.
and I think my feeling is in the future, given that it's a credit request, I'm not sure we really need to go through that
Yeah.
type of project, that we could just bring it to a meeting and then have it approved here and then send it to the bank.
I think this procedure seems to me that it would give them provide us with the audit trail that's necessary for any tax or records management on the part of the county or the company itself. Are there any other questions about this?
Well, I would say if you're fine with moving forward this way, you could go ahead and approve it.
All this is looks like it's design engineering work, a lot of surveying, some CAD work. I guess the other question would be to ask Lisa what our status is on this project now as a result of all this work. Are we making Hunter Valley?
Or about it.
I haven't had any contact with Mr. Kreider. I'm assuming they're still waiting on their CLOMAR permit, or the LOMAR permit. That's the last I heard, but I thought this fall they were wanting to really get going.
I asked him about that, and he indicated that they are still waiting on that permit. And Lisa has given me enough information about how hard it is to get that permit that it's
a process.
disappointing but not surprising.
Let the record show that Mr. Cassidy has shown up. Thank you. On this item, we're dealing with the approval of a credit request from Kreider through Logan Land Development Company for the project on.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not yet.
Not as of Monday.
Amazing how difficult it is now to cross a stream.
Very much so.
Yep. Okay, any other questions about this? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second it.
A motion and a second to approve the credit request from Logan Land Development for $162,920.95. This is all for work which is associated with the Hunter Valley roadway project. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
I'll abstain since I wasn't here for the discussion.
Motion is approved, 3-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay. Next on our agenda, staff comment. Who wants to begin?
My comment is that the treasurer, auditor, and I have been meeting with a group who specializes in investing bond reserve funds to maybe get a better interest rate. Now, there are rules against how much you can collect, but typically, and we've been looking specifically at the 2 West Side TIF districts that we have debt reserves fund, as well as potentially the major bridge fund, just to kind of explore with them, what are the benefits and what are the advantages and disadvantages of utilizing that as maybe a way to do more of what we did kind of with this bond payment, which is use some of the cash balance that is built up to pay off debt. And there are federal rules with that, so we're just kind of working through that. So just kind of want to let you know that we're exploring that.
Anytime we can pay off bonds early and avoid the interest is a good thing for us. Makes the county's dollars go farther.
Is that a situation where you were looking at the increased interest amount in order to accumulate additional dollars based on interest income?
Yes, if different investment strategies. Again, we got to be liquid, we've got to be secure, those kind of things. Or we have some rules there, but particularly if at times like now where where the interest rates could vary more, and maybe be reduced or go up, it makes sense to look at that as opposed to just letting it sit in the bank in a money market account or something like that. So if it makes sense, we'll bring it back. If it doesn't, we won't.
Right now, most of the capital is setting in a money market that's a fixed rate situation.
Would be fixed. Money market would be fixed.
Floating rates? Okay. But
It's basically held by the trustee, and they've invested it where they would invest it, kind of, and we assume it's a money market rate. So we're kind of just exploring that. I think it makes sense to look at it with these 2 TIF bonds, because as long as it's secure and as long as it can be at least as much as what we're currently receiving, we'll gain some experience for future bonds. I mean, really what we're talking about is money that we have to hold and we're not allowed to spend. It has to pursuant to bond documents. So I think trying to get a feel for how that works is kind of where we're at right now.
urgent.
Lisa.
One question was brought up this week. Are you wanting to do a ribbon cutting for Sunrise Grading's project when it opens? Intermediate completion date's August 30th. So. Okay.
Bells and whistles.
Okay. I will
Have the fire truck there.
make
with the-
that happen. We had the fire truck the last time.
Yeah, we are paying for a new one that they haven't got yet.
Anytime we invest that much money in a project that is long delayed and a result of things that were imposed upon.
Okay. So I will make sure we arrange that, get a time set when we're closer to opening it. I want to give you a Curry Pike update since that would be our next reconstruction project coming up. I had mentioned we were going to maybe hire a local engineering firm to do some extra engineering services for us. I think we're going to go ahead and do everything in-house. We have in the project, I think for this segment, the first segment that we had proposed to you was State Road 48, which is Bloomington city limits, to about Beasley Drive, and that's where Bloomington city limits takes over again. So that includes the piece that, like, say, is in front of Simtra. So we had in our proposal to go and replace sidewalks, curb and gutter, ADA ramps, and we still plan on doing that. We were also going to put in possibly some missing pieces of sidewalk. However, Simtra was able to go to the BZA and they received a variance to not put any sidewalk and not complete sidewalk in front of Simtra. So we are not going to include new pieces of sidewalk because we wouldn't be able to afford it. We thought that big piece would be done by Simtra. It was our staff recommendation to deny the variance to the BZA, but they went ahead and gave them the variance. I know they made them do some extra sidewalk on the backside by Liberty Drive, but it doesn't help the Curry Pike side. So I just want to put that out there because I don't know how important the missing pieces of sidewalk are to the board. We don't want to have to go back and redo things, but when you're getting into sidewalk, it opens up a whole, for the missing pieces, then you're getting into possibly acquiring right-of-way. You have utilities, so it's not.
What right-of-way do we have there already?
It varies. It
course.
just varies in different locations.
What sidewalk do we have on the west side?
There is sidewalk on the west side of the, along Curry Pike in that segment.
3 foot
So,
with tree plot?
no, I
No
don't think
tree
there's
plot.
tree plot on that side.
So it's right up to the pavement.
I think they have they have a little bit of patch of grass and everything off the curb. But we are going to repair any of it. It's just going in there and adding a lot of missing pieces would be very expensive for the project, and we know we can't afford it. We're looking, and we also did reach out to Simtra and ask them if in the future, we work out some right-of-way things maybe in front of them, that maybe eventually we could do a cost share with them. But that would be after we'd finish these 3 segments.
So foot traffic is going to have to cross at 3rd Street to the west side of the street and travel south from there.
There's no sidewalk at that Marathon gas station because that's their drive entrance. So I think it's past the alley, which that all is City of Bloomington until you get to that alley behind the laundromat. That's City of Bloomington. So our section would start around Bell, and that has sidewalk on that west side. So I wanted to throw the sidewalk
People
issue.
are going to have to hurt before people start thinking about the actions they take.
I did reach out to BZA and ask them in the future if, that they would, and it's our duty to maybe just show up more at BZA meetings. We put in the staff report that we did not, in the planning department, did not recommend the variance. But
So the other option for people is to use Liberty Drive. What's our sidewalk capability on Liberty Drive going south that they could use to someplace where they could get across?
there's no cut
Really
through to
isn't
Curry
there,
Pike.
isn't there? So we've stranded people with no sidewalks on the west side of Bloomington. On the west.
In locations, and there's some missing pieces, yes. Yeah, and we're already looking into the next segment. I know I've looked, there's sidewalk in front of CVS. There's sidewalk, I think, all the way to the old Big Lots entrance that I see. We think we're missing a piece from Profile Parkway to that point that we would like to maybe include into that segment moving forward. It's just this first segment, we just would not be able to afford to put in those missing links. We're going to do what we can with the budget that I presented to you guys, because I don't want to be into a financial situation like we did this year. I want to stay within those limits. That's why we're not going to hire an engineering firm. We're going to do our own bid documents. We are having the infrastructure televised to see what kind of stormwater infrastructure we have, what needs replaced for the project. But we had included some of that. We don't think we have any big drainage issues on that segment of road, so I think we're going to be okay. So yeah, that's just kind of the Curry Pike update moving forward. But we hope to do bids maybe this fall for construction in 2026.
Does the city have a sewer line along Curry in that area?
They could, they
Because
very
it-
well could have, yeah.
Yeah, because it's city, county, city, and they're gonna, I think they come north there up to Third and then in.
Yeah, and we've been pulling a bunch of the plans when we've constructed Curry Pike back in the 90s. So we've got a lot of those plans. We got a lot of the right-of-way documents. So we've been kind of just pulling all of that, pulling it together to at least get that first segment done in 2026.
Clarification, at least if we can, on segment from 48, which is the Speedway, the Marathon Station, going to the south, past Simtra, past the railroad track, up to the city of Bloomington's portion there.
Which is about Beasley Drive, just past the new light at Constitution.
Yeah, just past Constitution, where it comes in and what I would refer to as the old Highland Lounge.
Correct.
Okay. As we look at that,
Yeah.
from the standpoint of, and this goes back several years, would this not be a perfect opportunity to help meld the county and the city in regards to a joint project that would be beneficial for the community overall? Because that little section, and I know, don't laugh, I have to ask this question because Bloomington is in Monroe County and always will be. But that one section was set up in the 70s as a strip annexation situation. And
So are you talking past Beasley to 45?
that's what I'm wondering in regards to, because as we look at our funding and such, while we don't have the funding through our TIF situation, is this the possibility of being able to do something jointly? And even if we look at the sidewalk situation here, or the road, first off, the road, because we're looking to resurface the counties, and it has, you know, when the state did both intersections, and then the county in the 90s widened Curry Pike, and then we had to stop because we hit the cities. And, you know, from a previous discussion I personally had with one of the city's economic development directors back in 2000, somewhere right in there, they said, well, that's never going to be anything we're going to worry about.
So we
And-
did a Southwest Corridor study a few years ago. I want to say around 2020, 2019. So it was basically looking at that whole area. We hired an engineering firm. We presented the study to the MPO board, which is city and county and IU and Ellettsville, not rural transit, Bloomington Transit. One of the number one projects on that was to widen Curry Pike from 45 to Beasley Drive county limits, and it was not a priority.
Look at this, when we get our missing tooth portions of sidewalks, and we have this thing, it creates an issue with continuity for our community as we go, and as we giving that west side corridor and what we're talking from an employment standpoint, because, you know, we now have a new manufacturer coming in to the Phoenix, you know, behind Phoenix, and then with Simtra's expansion, you know, the connectivity, as much as I would like to say we don't have to drive everywhere, as it is, we're in Indiana and we drive. So we need those roads. What's the chances of asking in any capacity, or is that something that just once it dies, it doesn't come back up? You got to ask and you got to go through the MPO and increase the priority, or does it?
So the MPO funds, so we submit our projects, and the tip is right now out to 2030. All the money in the MPO is spoken for, whether it be a city project or a county project. So you get to we submit our projects. And then we divvy up which year works for who has a construction year and the timeline and everything. The city has never proposed to install that project into the MPO funding. They have other projects.
And I guess the question I have, and this is
And that's really the only where I'm only involved is in the MPO of submitting a project to allocate projects. Outside of that, it would be up to city engineering possibly, and maybe their peers on how they would fund that project.
question is dealing with that. Could we ask the city to give it back to the county with a little bit of funds to do construction?
Give that
Give the
piece of road
give
back,
the road back to the county. If they're not going to do it,
county
never-
probably wouldn't want that back.
Okay.
I don't think this is the political
Then
environment
you
for the city
inherit
to give it back.
you inherit somebody else's issue. We know
Yeah.
it's an issue, and we
Yeah.
know it's narrow and it needs widened, and it's a traffic backup. We would not want to take on somebody's problem that we
Right.
know needs to be
They
a
can pay us,
priority.
they can pay us.
Well, that's
to
what I'm
take it.
looking at, is how would we actually look at something that would sit here and benefit, and how that mechanism could potentially work. And I know that there's a little bit of political friction, but we're all still in the same community, and
Yeah,
that
and-
west side corridor is a critical portion for our employment. So
Again, the only thing we could do was provide that study.
Okay.
And we paid for that study. And again, it never came back that it was a priority for the city to develop that project. And that's their decision.
it's based on the prioritization of the MPO, which then will in turn, and we're stuck with.
Not really the MPO. It's the city of Bloomington that will submit the projects to the MPO. And it's kind of us, we work really well, city of Bloomington, myself, our engineers, getting together, stating, I've got this project, it's gonna go to construction on this year, let's allocate these funds to that. And then the next year it might allocate to the other party. So, and then it would be up to the MPO board to vote on our tip and our projects.
So this is one that's just kind of, state owns one end, city owns a piece, county owns a piece, state owns a piece. And getting those 4 or 3 together is kind of difficult on.
Well, and the state's done their part, really.
Right.
I mean, so it's just really a city decision at this point on where they prioritize their projects.
Dealing with our sidewalk and our alternative transportations and what we're looking at there, is there any way that we were looking at continuity? We asked for voluntary, right away. Say, hey, would you
Well,
guys
and
donate for?
I feel like the county has stepped up on their part of trying to continue that sidewalk by, and this board by supporting the Karst Trail extension.
Oh.
Getting that over to Liberty Drive and getting that path built off the roadway. So I feel like we are making those connections. It's just we've kind of gone a different route than saying straight up Curry Pike, what's our alternatives? So,
Once you hit that on Constitution, that particular piece at Liberty, then we're kind of stuck going to 2 of the employment areas there. Well, on Curry Pike specifically.
okay, yeah.
Specifically on Curry Pike.
yeah.
So what would be the ability, or I know we don't, this is just, I'm brainstorming a little bit in regards to what we would have to do to either ask the employers, the individuals, because as opposed to where we know public infrastructure needs to be, and I'll use Simtra as the example, great company,
Absolutely.
good, but they didn't want to construct the sidewalk based upon that said either the right-of-way acquisition, or we take a portion and say we can afford 200 feet, but we can complete that 200 feet. So we continue the sections in a completed section rather than what I refer to in some of the things that occur, these sidewalks to nowhere, where if you're going to do this, we pay into a sidewalk fund so that there's a little additional dollars to always make continuous continuity of the sidewalk. Because using Curry Pike as an example, the Chateau Van Buren Apartments, or Woodland Springs now, if I remember correctly, watching the individuals that are walking on that, which then puts us in a situation of safety for our community as a whole.
And I think, and talking to the businesses and the right-of-way issues and things like that, I think it's something that you can do in the future. Do we have the funding to do it right now? No. And then it's also, would they be willing to donate?
Right. And I guess that's the question I'm asking, as opposed to when it goes through and the procedural regulations that establish in the county that says, well, our CDO says you do this, this, and this. With that, where, you come in and by right, you have to say, no, we don't think we want this, and you have to do that. But that portion of being able to come to those individuals said, now, this may be an ordinance change based upon a planning thing, not with highway, how they can say, let's sit down and would you be willing to give the right of way? Because as opposed to the public not having access, which benefits those individuals with the property also. I mean, there's a chicken and egg on that. Some people like trails, some people don't. Sidewalks and safety, they go kind of hand in hand.
And it's also something that you might be able to plan for in the future for a safety grant. And then there's certain guidelines you have to follow when it comes to right-of-way. It's very strict if you have federal funds involved. You don't talk about donations and things till a certain point. You don't talk about anything about parcels with the owner until a certain point. So it's very strict on the process. So moving forward, it would depend on if you have any federal dollars tied to it. There's some safety grants that have come out recently that you can maybe apply for things like that. So it might be something that Curry Pike would be something good to do. It's just to get to that point, you've got a lot of surveying, a lot of engineering, a lot of facts to come up with before you'd even have that ready to go. And we're just not at that point.
Thank you for the education on that, because the way it all works, I don't, and I don't know if the general public understands it all. So, but the main objective is road comes, it narrows, it widens back up, and we will have toothed sidewalks. And continuity and consistency, even if it takes 30 years to do it, is better than saying, well, you have to put this in. We don't have the money to put this in. So,
Which is the way it used to be. Because my dad and Carl Turpinning had to do that when the new bowling alley Classic was built in '85. It was a sidewalk to nowhere between Gouldy's and Indiana Bell. And it just makes me mad.
Go nowhere until they go somewhere.
Until they go somewhere. But they had to bear the cost in the construction of that project.
Yeah.
We don't have a facility in the county for what they call an indeterminate sidewalk. Says that essentially you're obligated to put in the sidewalk when we tell you the sidewalk is necessary.
well, to that point, Richard, I understand that, but as we look at this long term, and and private individuals who are taxpayers, just like, it's not just a company, it's people that are in the company. Those people, when we talk about companies and things like that, we're really talking about people that provide either employment or maybe one person, maybe 1,000, but they're still part of our community. And when we look at that continuity and safety, everybody wants that to occur. So if there's ever a way that we're having discussions with planning or the rest of it, how we could set up some sort of sidewalk fund that when we run into these situations, just like, and I'll use, again, Centra's a great employer, but because of their requirements and such, they were not able to do that. That we would have the funds say, if you would donate the right of way, we've accumulated a fund, not unlike what we do on our TIF funds, but something from a alternative ability in a planning process to say, we understand this sidewalk is something that you either can't do or would go nowhere. I mean, we're building a sidewalk, on pick a road, Maple Grove Road. I mean, right in the middle. I mean, great road, love it. Bicyclists, they'd love to have a path, or Unionville. But when we look at that, say, we've been accumulating some dollars, which could also be invested to help regenerate that. So we would have consistent revenue funding that as we see these projects that need to be done, dollars for our communities are always short. And most people have no idea what it takes to maintain roads, bridges. Do a great job on the
Sidewalks.
funding. Yeah, sidewalks. So with that, if we could look at that as a group, not just, to say, is there a way that we could have some sort of fund that would pay into it? We may not be able to have everything to be contracted out, but if we had those funds to pay for materials even, there's time frames where, okay, what was the labor that could be done? And then prioritize as we do the roads. And it's just a funding mechanism is what I look
Right.
at. Because
Yeah.
on a basis of, as you said, with
Well, I think we do have those. I think we do have that capability. The thing would be, if you have a dedicated fund
right,
and there is money sitting there that is not going to be used, then somebody's going to find a use for those dollars and transfer them out of that fund where they need them as a higher priority. That's going to happen. That's just the nature of how governments are managed.
couldn't we just set up a sidewalk
No.
fund? Really?
We do have a sidewalk fund. It's in her streets and roads.
And
That's where, that's where the money is.
when
That's
we
where it's
build our roads, we follow complete streets for the
we
city
do
of
it.
Bloomington.
Oh, I
And
understand
we're required, and I guess that's where I have a hard time with some of the variances that go through. I'm required as a county government that my road is to be built, Profile Parkway, Fullerton Pike. They're built with sidewalk and they're built with connectivity. But then you have a big business come in and you allow them not to have to follow that same guideline.
Well, my main objective is that these toothed areas that have accumulated, that have residential area, employment areas, irregardless of the individual on where it is, that we have the ability to have continuity based on funding. Now, every 4 years, things change politically. But when we look at safety, we look at sidewalks, we look at roads, those are things that are not going to go away. And the individual people in our community are always going to kind of ask for it. And they should, because when you look at that, we as a community, Monroe County, Bloomington, we pride ourselves on looking at things from what is the most ecological and economical way to do things, and that serves everybody. And when we look at that, when you see why are we putting something in, if there's a mechanism, I can't say it can't happen right now, but working together
Right.
to try to get.
And that's why I kind
funding.
of wanted to bring it out for a future, why'd we go in and reconstruct Curry Pike and we missed all these sidewalk pieces?
Yeah.
We couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But it's something that we might really want to consider in the future,
We're in a TIF district.
so.
Okay, let me ask, now I'm going to ask one question on that. Okay, you hit it exactly. The city of Bloomington did what's called a spider TIF. Which
They
I have,
aggregated their TIF districts.
well, they
into a-
consolidated,
They
they
consolidated
consolidated,
under Mark.
but they also have a
Spider
what's
TIF.
called a spider TIF. That follows specific things for a fiber optic, which, is a completely different subject. But if we have sidewalks that need to be completed in high traffic areas that follow our plan, our master plan for roadways, 2030, and because you're really good at planning on what these are. If that would be an option, because you as you said, Richard, put it into a TIF. So if we have major urban roadways that we know that we're not going to have funding accordingly, and we plan ahead, if that's a possibility.
Still got to get the political people to approve it. And they are unlikely to approve just that, because it's not going to be a high enough priority for the tax dollars. That's the issue. It's not a high enough priority for tax dollars which are being collected. But it's something we would like to do, but it's not a high enough priority given all of the other needs for tax dollars, because it diverts tax dollars.
I understand. And until somebody gets killed, it moves things up on a priority based on the particular instances that occur. Don't ever want anyone to get hurt or killed. And as we build roads, and we're partially responsible for the funding of those, and now this is personal opinion, safety is extraordinarily important. You look at it, you plan for it on what we do on our complete streets. But because we are a 200-year community here, we don't necessarily we have things that have occurred that if we can fix the connectivity, I mean, Richard, you know how a lot of this works. Funding may not be a priority at the time, but how do we set up something that has continuity that literally outlives everybody?
I think you're preaching to the wrong choir.
Well, I'm not preaching. I'm not trying to
No,
preach.
you are making a case to us, and I think we would all agree
Okay,
that we need to do this.
then,
But you need to get the people who are making the political decisions about how we distribute tax dollars to make the case.
Well, I'm not looking-
Because until they are willing to do it, there is nothing that we can do.
I'm not looking at distribution of tax dollars. I'm looking at what any particular possibilities or alternative ability to fund. Because just like when we come through, when someone is presented with something, part of our requirements in our CDO says you'll put a sidewalk in, or you can seek a variance. If you
And the people who make the variances are political appointees.
right.
So, I mean,
Well, if not,
those are the mechanisms we have in place. I think you're complaining about.
I'm not complaining. I'm
Well,
trying
you're
to-
pointing out is that
there's no complaints.
the way that it has happened through the process has left a certain segment of our populace who happens to walk a lot at a disadvantage. No question about that. No question about that. The issue, though, about how you remedy that has to be through the same process that disadvantaged them in the first place. Through planning, through the Board of Zoning Appeals,
And that's
through
what
the allocation of county funds by the county council, and the administration of those funds by the county commissioners. Those are the mechanisms we have.
So redevelopment has no ability to even have any discussion on where funding would actually occur to.
We can deal with the management of TIF districts. We can propose TIF districts, and we can manage those the funding that is generated by those TIF districts.
Okay.
That's what we can do. We can't change the policy.
Well, I'm not looking to change. What I'm looking to do is try to come up with a solution, because it comes down kind
Well,
of
and
to
what
money.
and what I'm telling you is
There is no
that the
solution.
mechanisms for that solution are in place. They aren't favorable at this point in time.
I would
But that's the situation we've got.
point out that the spider TIF of the city was put in place for a project for fiber, which those kind of utilities do have an assessed value and do have a financial component where they would pay a tax. I'm not sure that same would be for a sidewalk,
It
right?
may
So I hear what you're saying. I just think the spider TIF route is probably not going to be fruitful to generate any revenue.
I didn't expect it. When Richard mentioned TIF and we had one, it's like, okay, if you could follow sidewalks, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, Richard. What I'm trying to communicate is how we work this together to figure out how Lisa has enough money in whatever fashion to complete it as we go, and then the community as a whole.
What is the worst thing, Lisa, that can happen in this situation? Now that they've denied, the variance has been agreed upon. Does that impact the rest of the Curry project? Or I didn't think so, but I'm just curious.
It doesn't. It's just one segment that we wouldn't have had to look at, do we need to put sidewalk there?
Right,
And I
right.
guess, and that was raised in a question to me of, okay, moving forward, how important is sidewalk to the RDC board since they're funding the reconstruction project? So I didn't want to present a project to you that's going to have missing sidewalk, and it's, hey, Lisa, thought you were addressing everything. It would be great to address it all, but we don't have the funding to do that. It's just, it takes the project to a whole new level when you're going to go try and do surveys and right-of-ways and all of that. So I wanted to just bring it up, so maybe in the future, after we do the 3 segments of Curry Pike, and we get a little bit more money there, maybe in the next segment, the last segment has sidewalk, it's not even an issue. Maybe that next segment, there's some missing pieces by profile that we gear towards, okay, let's fix that section and do those missing pieces there. But that would be in 2027. So I just wanted to put it out there that this first segment, we'll address what we can, but we want to keep the budget at that level that we presented to you all.
Okay. Was that the city BZA or was that county?
It's county BZA.
It was county. Okay.
That's all I have. If you want to update on Fullerton Pike, it's scheduled right now to open by August 4th, right before school. The west end of the roundabout will still have some work to be done, but the entrance for the school and the library, that's our main component to have open by August 4th. The rain has played a little bit of part in all of this, but we meet weekly now because we know we're in a crunch and we're looking at, 3 weeks out of opening that up. So we're going to do it, Richard.
Well, no, and
That's our goal. And the school and the library has been great to work with. And as of yesterday's meeting when we met, we're still on target to get that open for them. So
no, it's important that we don't start school with a traffic jam out front.
right.
The community down there.
They've been through a lot since 2017 in that area. So we'll be glad to get out of there.
But it looks good, and people seem to be very appreciative. Even the one going to the library and what has to happen at the present moment, it's still being used.
Any other staff-oriented comments? Any commissioners' comments? Let me start over there. Mike, you want to start? Do you have any comments to make?
No, I'm just learning as we go. The things you're talking about, it's like I'm gonna have to get in my car and drive by and see what that is. So it's,
Drove by Fullerton Pike today, did the roundabout, and they're working hard. I mean, they're really hard at it. So I don't doubt they'll get it done. And also, with everything that's gone on the past couple of months down there, because I drove a little further south, and wow, there is no more building there at the post office, but they're working, and it's nice to see activity at that little post office, that they're doing something, and it's not sitting vacant. So that's good. But that's going to be so good for the area. I've seen it from both sides, from the roundabout and from coming off the interstate. Make a world of difference for that whole corridor. So it's great.
Interesting to see what kind of change in traffic patterns we get on 3rd Street between Curry and the Liberty Drive areas.
Yeah, and it'll definitely help in Fullerton Pike area for the cut-through traffic, getting out of the subdivisions. I know they've put up with that for a long time, so.
Any comments?
I've talked a lot, but the one last thing I want to say is I just want to thank all the highway employees, everybody that's working on the roads right now, given the heat, the rain, and all the conditions on that. They've went above and beyond what we've seen in our community. And as we all know, we have 40,000 guests coming back here in a few weeks. And with that, when they come in and they see those things that are done, it sets that tone for our community, the rest of the world. So opening these things up in your timing that I'm like, wow, that's going to be,
Close.
timing is perfect.
Yeah.
So I thank you and everybody out there for all their hard work this summer, given the conditions. Yeah.
I have, want to make is that I've had a conversation with a real estate investment company up in Indianapolis that Jeff had me make contact with regarding opportunities for county-based housing. They were interested in market rate type stuff, and we were looking at TIF-oriented opportunities available to them. TIF districts we've got and what kind of capacity we've got there in the county areas. So interest in development of residential in the county at fairly large scale, but as the conversation went on, there is limited capacity. I will also tell you that we had a meeting with county plan department on a related issue having to do with our sewer infrastructure capacity in the county. And county associated with the existing sewerage facilities. This all goes back to our discussions last year about housing opportunity in the TIF districts, or creating an affordable housing TIF districts. And while we weren't able to make any progress last year, I still hold out some hope that there is something we're going to be able to do at some point in time. That'd be the kind of thing we would all like, but give us an opportunity. That's all I have. Anything else from anybody? Anybody in the virtual audience have a question, comment? No? Left? Okay. That we are done. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Salute.
Seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you.